In this video, we will discuss nerve modeling techniques in order to create this modern looking table that will go into a living room. So let's begin, and again, every time that we start a new modeling project, we should analyze what we're modeling to get an idea of what's going to be our approach towards solving this problem. You know, the top of this will be a quite simple solution because it's just a cylinder, but it's the base that it could be a little problematic, and you will have to try maybe a couple of things to see what works the best. I'm going to be using a lofting through curves and surfaces, and see if I can create this kind of like S looking table that we have right here. So let's see if my approach works with this. Based on my analysis, I saw that basically the bottom and the top of this were basically an S shape, and then it was kind of twisted a little bit, either the bottom or the top. So I'm just gonna go ahead and actually I'm gonna use the text rather than trying to draw my own S shape. So I'm just gonna create right here my options, and I'm gonna be using this font based on the research that I was doing. It's just it looks like a good solution to the type of shape that the table has. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create that. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate it. Again, it's going to be 90 degrees on the x-axis. Then the next step is basically going to be making a duplicate of this and moving it up. Okay. Then to make a loft out of two different spline objects, just basically going to select them both and do a loft, and it's going to create a surface based on those two shapes. So in order to create this twisting, I'm just gonna take either the top or the bottom. I'm gonna modify it, making sure that it's centered, and just rotate it. And again, with this step of modeling, always remember there is a dependency between the original splines that you use to create the surfaces and the surfaces themselves. So if I twist this, it's going to follow. And again, I have to make sure that it's not too much, because the geometry seems to be collapsing in itself. So that looks pretty good. And it looks like a good solution. But then the problem that I'm having at this moment is that all of these edges are pretty sharp, and even the top of the bottom are basically open. I could basically select my S and just do a planar and cap it on the top, but I'm still gonna have these kind of sharp edges, and it's gonna take away from the natural approach that I want my model to have. So instead of keeping it like this, what I'm actually going to do is take the surface that I created and make it into a polygon. So to do that, I'm going to go into Convert under Modify, and then change Nerve to Polygons, or Convert Nerve to Polygons. Then I'm going to click on the box to see the options. So I just want to make sure that I have Quad selected, and I want to make sure that it has enough geometry for the conversion. So I'm just going to change that to 300, and then I'm just going to apply it. Alright, so it looks like it did a really nice conversion. Right now it looks a little blocky, but nothing that a previous smoothing can't solve. And it seems like our conversion has a couple of issues, especially in areas where it looks like there's edges that are way too close to each other. So the first thing that I gotta do is clean up my geometry a little bit. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete edge vertex, all of this extra geometry that I'm not gonna need. So I just need to go around and select all of them, and I'm loop selecting by pressing on my left arrow on my keyboard, and deleting the edge of the vertices by just pressing G, since I already selected the tool once. And again, those sharp edges, those lines that are too close to each other, are the ones that are going to give us trouble. So those are the ones that I'm trying to get rid of right here. So again, I'm just going to do another preview and see if doing that helped. And there's definitely an improvement on the geometry. I might maybe have to address some here. Maybe the one in the middle of these two need to go. And let's see how that works out. So that's pretty nice. The next thing that I need to address is that with these models that are kind of based on splines, or at least the problem with splines is that even though they look close, they're not. So basically, I'm gonna have an issue here where on one of these sides, basically my geometry is not really it's open, and if I try to cap the top at the bottom, it's basically going to do some funky stuff with the geometry. So I need to find out where is that open shape, and it seems like it's on the other side over here. Not that one. So it is this side over here. Alright, so now what we need to do, I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I want to select both vertices that are open, and I'm just going to basically, I'm going to weld them by using the merge command. So now that I've done that, it's basically one piece. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat that with every single vertice. Alright, so that seemed to work. And in order to prove or to check to make sure that this actually worked, I'm going to go ahead and cap this object, and both the top and the bottom have been capped. Now the next thing that I need to do is to make sure that I connect some of these points here, because if I try and do a previous move, there's not enough geometry in there to kind of sustain that. So I need to make sure that I create that for it. So I'm gonna go ahead, select my vertices, and start connecting these components like this. I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna pause this video for a second. I'm gonna connect all of my points, and then I'll be back. Alright, so I went ahead and connected all of the edges at the top and at the bottom, and then I just made sure tested that it was actually the top and the bottom were not collapsing. So now that everything's working fine, I need to add a little bit more of edge loops right here to make sure that my edges are still, yeah, the edges are, they have a little bit of curve, but they're not necessarily this curved, or at least my reference doesn't show that. They have a little bit of an edge. So I'm going to use the insert edge loop tool. Again, it just add a little bit of sharpness, but nothing too crazy. Then I'm gonna go to the other side over here. Pretty much do the same thing, and then just a little bit at the bottom. Alright. Seems like I have a little bit of an issue here. It's probably one of my components that I connected. Just did the wrong thing here. Let me just kind of fix this real quick. And just connect my components. And then I'm going to use my split polygon tool to just kind of finish this loop that I had going on here. Make sure that that's working fine. Alright, let's just make sure that's... Alright, so no big problem right there. Alright, so I don't really need my original NURB object for this, because I already kind of getting to the end of this right now. But one thing I like to do right now is make sure that I center the pivot. I also want to create a cylinder that's going to go on the top of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I just need a primitive. I just need a cylinder. So I'm just going to go ahead and create that. And now I'm basically going to align it to this guy. So I want to go into the align tool and just align it right here, and then I can just go into my side and just kind of move it up so it's right on top of that. Just back to my perspective. Just gonna make sure it doesn't have any subdivisions on the cap. I'm gonna increase the number of subdivisions that it have. I can also, let's see, I'm just gonna select this face, then I'm going to go and bevel these edges, so I need to convert them first. Select convert to edges, then I need to do a bevel. So that actually worked pretty well, and I just want to add maybe another segment there. That's pretty nice. And the last touch that I want to add is that if I look at my reference, this is actually a little bit kind of squished right here. There's a little bit of a squeeze right here in the middle. So I want to be able to add that, and to be able to do that, I'm going to go into animation, create the formers, Lattice, and I want to have a cage lattice that I can actually use to organically just kind of modify and squeeze in this area. So I want to have lattice on the top, on the bottom, and at the center. So 3 divisions works great. So I'm just going to click on create. Then I want to go into my lattice points, and I'm just going to go ahead and scale it. So it's actually creating that little bit of squeeze right there. And again, based on my reference, it's kind of like not necessarily in the center, so I can actually just kind of move this down a bit, and that works perfect. So and again, I may not want to have this lattice connected to my geometry, so I can always go back into edit, delete by type, and delete the history, so that way it's not dependent on it. And the last thing that I can do, again, just to make sure that that all things are organized, I can actually select this, create a layer for my table. Oops. save that. I can actually go into my outliner and kind of group a couple things. So just like I did with my couch, I can go into my top view and just kind of create a spline circle here, and just kind of centered here. Doesn't have to be perfect. Let's see. So it's kind of at the ground, so that works perfect. And I'm just gonna rename this, name it CTRL for control, then table. Then go into my outliner and pretty much group them with my control table by selecting them and just middle mouse clicking and just dragging into the table. Another thing that I can do at this point is, of course, just freeze transform my control so everything's at 0s and 1. And again, now that I have this, I can just move it whatever if I need to, and always go back to my origin point by doing this if I need to. And if I scale it, it's gonna do it right from the bottom, so it always gonna stay uniformly. And that way we're keeping our scene organized, making sure that we can hide it if we need to. If we have too many things in our scene and things like that, I want to make sure to add this to my layer as well so it's hidden. So again, in this video we covered how we created the base of this table by using by lofting two text splines, and then we proceeded to convert it into a polygon and we fixed the geometry a little bit, and after doing that we made sure that our edges were somewhat sharp, and we used the lattice to actually create a little bit of squeeze right here at the bottom. And this is just a simple cylinder, and then at the end I just created a control to make sure that everything's organized in my scene, and again everything's in a layer and it's grouped in my outliner. So I hope this helped. Thank you for watching.